Everybody out there in YouTube land. Um, I'm here again, and I have a particularly interesting movie today. A movie that really has not aged well at all. I just watched it again today. Actually, finished it about a half hour ago. It was a rough sit. I originally, when it first came out, I was in high school. Actually, no, I wasn't. In middle school. I was in eighth grade. I feel old now. Anyway, so I was 14. It was Star Wars. Okay, it was Star Wars. I I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was fun. Then I watched it later on. It did not age well. I watched it a few years later. Not that it didn't age well. I mean, now it definitely hasn't. Like, it looks really bad now. The CGI is bad and all that. Not as bad as some movies, but anyway. So I watched it a few years later after it came out, after I saw it in theaters. And I realized just how forced a lot of the dialogue is, how bad the acting is, how kind of full of holes the plot is, and how all over the place it was. Like, that was one of the complaints people had about Star Wars Rogue One. It just bounced all over the place. Like, you're on one planet, then you're on another planet, then you're on another planet, then you're on another planet. This did that. Star Wars Episode 1 did that, except it wasn't necessarily, it wasn't all, like, all over the places in different planets. It was just, you're following this person, then you're following this person, then you're following this person, then this person, then this person, then this person, and it's cut in such a way that it can honestly get kind of confusing if you're not paying attention, or even if you are. So, yeah, it could definitely be better. Of course, it's considered one of the worst Star Wars, probably the worst Star Wars movie and one of the worst movies of all time. I mean, yeah, of course it could be better. The first thing I would start with is cutting a lot of just scenes that really don't need to be there. Like, for example, an example that pops into my mind immediately is when they first leave Naboo and Padme is talking to Jar Jar for the first time, and they're talking for like 2 minutes. It's just like, they're not talking about anything important. They're not really having much of a conversation. They don't really even say all that much. But the scene goes on for like 2 minutes. Why? Why? It just seems like that. There's probably a dozen scenes like that are just completely unnecessary. And this is a 2-hour, 16-minute movie that they're basically putting filler in. So that was one thing that really bothered me that I noticed right away. Another thing that I would have done to make this movie better is completely revamp the character Jar Jar Binks. He is so annoying. It's not because he's clumsy or goofy or anything like that. It's because he's stupid. He is just so stupid. Like, he has no social graces. He doesn't know how to act around people, and I don't know why he's there. He doesn't need to be there. He really doesn't. I don't get it. Apparently, he was thought by George Lucas's 7-year-old granddaughter. And that explains a lot, but something about the movie that bugged me overall. The tone of the movie is just weird. Like, you've got the scenes where people are getting shot and people are getting impaled by a lightsaber with Qui-Gon Jinn and cut in half with Darth Maul. And it doesn't make sense to me. Who is this movie meant for? Is it meant for adults? Is it meant for kids? Because you've also got these goofy scenes with Jar Jar Binks that, quite frankly, are just ridiculous. Like the whole thing where he's flicking his tongue and grabbing the fruit, or he flicks his tongue and grabs the thing, the creature that he then releases and hits Sebulba with on Tatooine, and it's just like, who is this movie meant for? Like, you got these violent scenes where people are getting cut in half and shot and stuff, and then you have these goofy scenes where people are acting like idiots, or Jar Jar mainly is acting like an idiot. And it's just like, who's this movie meant for? Kids or adults? Because I guarantee you, most adults that went into this movie, my dad included. My dad went and saw this movie with me. He hated Jar Jar. He found Jar Jar super annoying, if I'm remembering correctly. And I've talked to other adults, myself included, like watching this movie, every time Jar Jar was on the screen, it was painful. He was so stinking annoying. And there are people who say, oh, I like Jar Jar. Yeah, when was the last time you actually watched the movie? Seriously. Like, when was the last time you actually watched the movie? So I would have made the tone more solid. Like, either keep it more on the adult side, like the original movies did. Actually, yeah, just do that, because a kids Star Wars movie would just be bad. I mean, the entire thing would have been like the scenes with Jar Jar, and that would just be horrible. So yeah, make the tone more like for adults, because that's how the original movies were. The tone was more adult. Yeah, there was stuff in there for the kids. There was stuff in there kids could enjoy. But, I mean, it was meant for adults. And I know the whole thing is, oh, well, we have to sell toys and we have to market towards kids, because then we'll get more money. And okay, yeah, but here's the thing. The original movies didn't market towards kids, and they're some of the highest grossing movies of all time. I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So, that's another thing I would change, is make the tone more adult. Get rid of the stupid slapstick with Jar Jar, and instead of having all those scenes, utilize the coolest part of this movie that I wanted to see more of, and that is Darth Maul. Darth Maul was awesome. And he was barely in the movie. It was sad. I think he had 4 lines. Yeah, 4 lines in the entire movie, and he was the coolest part of the movie, and he needed to be in the movie more. He really did. So that's something else I would change. More scenes with Darth Maul. Fewer, if any, slapstick scenes. I mean, Jar Jar can still be there, but honestly, I kind of subscribe to the whole Darth Jar Jar theory, and it's hinted at by even Ray Parks, or not Ray Parks. I can't remember who played Jar Jar, but it's hinted at by the guy who played Jar Jar that he was sad that they had to change what they did with Jar Jar because the public didn't like him. That Jar Jar was going to play a huge role, and it didn't happen. I mean, he was actually even in the working title of episode 2. I think it was episode 2 was something like Jar Jar's Adventure or something of that nature. Like, he was going to play a major role in the movies, and we don't know what that was now. Like, I like the Darth Jar Jar theory. I think that would have been amazing, and it does somewhat fit with some of the behavior we see as far as what he does and some of the things that happen around him. If you don't know what the Darth Jar Jar theory is, it's essentially that Jar Jar Binks was behind the scenes. He was behind Palpatine. He was the one in the background on pulling the strings, and yeah. Excuse me. So yeah, I mean, that would have been interesting. That would have been awesome. That would have changed everything in the prequels. That would have made them good if they'd done that right. The other thing is the acting. Okay, these are good, talented actors in this movie, with the exception of Jake Lloyd, who, yeah, I mean, he's a kid in this, so gotta cut him some slack. But then again, I've seen some good kid actors. Haley Joel Osment. He's a contemporary. They could have gotten him. And he actually, I've seen him in some movies when he was younger. I've seen parts of The Sixth Sense. I haven't seen the whole thing. I know, shocker, terrible, whole, blah, 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 whatever. I just never had much of an interest in it. I might watch it eventually. But, I mean, that kid, from what I've seen, has some really good acting chops. Around the same time, I think The Sixth Sense came out a year or two before episode 1. They could have used him. But nope, they went with Jake Lloyd. Yeah, not the best choice there. He did not do well. But then again, none of the actors did well. And we're talking like Natalie Portman, Ewan McGregor, Liam Neeson. Come on. These are good actors, and the dialogue is forced. They don't emote well. They just, I don't even know. It had to be the director. George Lucas as a director just, he's not good. I mean, if you look at the difference in acting and directing between Star Wars A New Hope and Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, episodes 5 and 6 are so much better because George Lucas wasn't directing. The actors do better. Everybody does better in those. So, yeah. I mean, there's just so many things that could be changed. I mean, there is a good movie in there. It's Star Wars, for heaven's sakes. Of course there's a good movie in there. It needed to be better. It needed to have some things changed. I mean, maybe not the Jar Jar thing. Maybe that would change too much in the continuity. But then again, I mean, Star Wars Episode 1 created plot holes or not necessarily Star Wars, not necessarily Star Wars Episode 1, but 5 and, or 3, 2 and 3 created plot holes in 4, 5, and 6. Like, they created timeline issues and stuff like that. Like, it just... I mean, a prime example of that is, as far as just the general timeline. No, actually, no. I'm not going to go in that right now. That would be a whole nother video. I'm probably going to do the other two prequels in this format because episode 1 honestly is the worst of them. Episodes 2 and 3, while still pretty bad, are better. Like, they have some more redeeming qualities. Episode 1 has Darth Maul and the song Duel of the Fates. Well, the soundtrack in general is pretty good because John Williams. John Williams on his worst day is better than 99% of conductors and composers on their best day. So you kind of can't go wrong with that. But everything else, the acting was stilted and wooden. The direction was terrible. The change between the scenes, the whole circle wipe thing or screen wipe, transitions between scenes, that got annoying, and it happened way too frequently. There were way too many cuts in this movie. I mean, that's another thing I would change. Fewer cuts. Like, seriously, fewer cuts. Stay focused in one place for longer. Like, during the fight between Qui-Gon, Darth Maul, and Obi-Wan, I think they cut to another scene. Gosh, probably 6 or 7 times. They'd show the lightsaber duel, and they'd cut to Princess Amidala. Then they'd cut to Anakin. Then they'd cut back to this lightsaber duel. And then they cut back to Amidala. Then back to Anakin. Then the lightsaber duel. This probably happened more than that. There was just so much of that. And that's definitely something I would change because it happened all throughout the movie. I mean, I'd be interested to see how many cuts there actually were in this movie. Like, it is just, how many transitions, it is just ridiculous. And that's something I really did appreciate. I really do appreciate about the original trilogy is there are nowhere near that many cuts. And they brought that back again in episode 7, where there weren't so many cuts. And episode 7 was a lot better. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot more that honestly probably could be changed in this. Just the story in general seemed like it could use some changes. The motivation, like, why was Palpatine manipulating the Trade Federation to embargo Naboo? What was his motivation there? Why? How did that serve him? How did that help him in any way? What was his motivation? Well, there's no character motivation there. He had no reason to do that. He had no stated reason to do that either. I mean, I suppose you could, like, figure out on your own, oh, well, that was to get his, get people, get his place in the Senate, get to where he could get power in the Senate and that sort of thing. Okay. Still, like, why? Why did he need to use? Why did he need to use Naboo? Why not some other planet? Or why did he have to use a planet at all? Why did he have to do that at all? Like, there's just so many things that could have been changed. They could have had him use a more subtle way to get power, some different way. Something more clear, something with more clear motivation than, oh, there's this planet and I can use this planet to um, get power in the Senate by this way. I mean, I know Palpatine is like, he plays the long game, like he plans things out for decades. But still, I mean, if you look at Legends or even episodes 4, 5, and 6, his character motivations are a lot more clear. And yeah, so there are a lot of things that could have been changed, but those are the ones that I really think would, if they had been changed, especially the Darth Maul one because he was awesome. Um, this would have been a really good movie because there is a good movie in there. It's just it's not in the original cut. So anyway, guys, guess that's it. I'm not sure when I'm going to do the next live stream. Probably the next few days, maybe Thursday or Friday. Anyway, I will see you guys later. Bye.